Now, reports have indicated that South African Rugby CEO Jurie Roux will be sacked from his position after he lost his appeal against the guilty verdict in the case related to the misappropriation of 37 million rand from the Finance Department of Stellenbosch University between 2002 and 2010. Now, while Roux never took money for personal gain, Marty's Rugby Club benefited from his actions. According to the courts, and Roux was ordered to pay back the misallocated funds to the university. Now, pressure has also come from government for Roux's departure, while the South African Rugby and its president, Mark Alexander, have shown support to the embattled CEO, pointing out that the misdemeanor did not occur while Roux was working for South African Rugby. Joining us now to unpack this report is Sport 24 Deputy Editor Sbu Mjikeliso. Sbu, thank you so much for coming through to talk to us. I mean, straight to this, this has been something that has been coming. Jurie Roux has been embattled for a while. It's not yet official. It's still allegations. What do you know about this? What have you heard about the story? Any truth to what we're hearing?
Hi, Gwen. Thanks for having me on the show tonight. There's plenty of truth in the story. We do understand that SA Rugby and Jurie Roux have been working for months on a separation agreement. Sport 24 reported as far back as May that a separation was in the works between SA Rugby and its current CEO. And that's on the back of course, the 37 million rand that he was adjudged to have misappropriated during his time heading the finance department at the University of Stellenbosch. And, Hawks have also circled around the issue as well, something we also reported some time back. So this is the culmination of the negotiations that have been happening in the background between SA Rugby's representatives and Jurie Roux's lawyers as well.
So I mean, you use the word negotiations, Sbu, but there's reports that firstly, Mark Alexander has stood by the CEO saying, well, this did not happen while he was the CEO of South African Rugby. But there's also reports that the sports ministry have been putting pressure for Roux's removal.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say the sports ministry has been pushing for his removal per se. I'd say that they have been pushing for some sort of resolution. This has lingered for years. It's a 13-year saga. The tricky bit about it for the president of SA Rugby, Mark Alexander, and the rest of his executive council is that these misdemeanors, or if you can even call them that, these misappropriations took place while he was still at Marty's. We're never been 100% sure whether SA Rugby knew of this pending case when they appointed him in 2010. But they did come to light in 2013. And a lot of people have felt that they never acted appropriately the first time around, and they continuously, renewed his contract for a 7-year period at some point in between. So he's a performer. He's brought them a lot of money. He's brought the organization a lot of money. But he's also brought along this cloud that's never gone away, this 37 million rand cloud of scandal that has come with. So the head of the organization, Mark Alexander, has been torn between the probably the best performing CEO in rugby, kept SA Rugby afloat during the COVID-19 pandemic, getting sponsorships one after the other. I mean, Mr. Alexander arrived from Doha just today, where they signed a international flight sponsorship agreement with Qatar Airways. And this is despite all the scandal that is taking place. They've got lots and lots of commercial partnerships, and it is understood that Jurie Roux is very much a part of that commercial success.
But what does this then do to the image of South African rugby? The fact that even though he attempted to clear his name in court, he has failed subsequently. Whether he stays or not, what does this do for the image of South African rugby?
It's obviously hurt South African rugby, SA rugby as a whole. So this is exactly the reservation that the sports ministry has had, because the image of South African rugby is being hurt by this, and continuously has done. I mentioned before that the way they've dealt with this matter has been unsatisfactory from the beginning. In fact, if you roll back to the reportage of last year in January, we did a story whereby the previous SA Rugby president, Oregon Hoskins, revealed to us that SA Rugby as a collective, the board, went against its own legal advice. This is at the very onset in 2013. When the KPMG report came, went against its own advice, legal advice, and they backed Jurie Roux instead of suspending him. So the first action that they took kind of dragged SA Rugby into the situation, even though the situation was a Jurie Roux versus Stellenbosch University matter. They then assumed part of that responsibility, having not acted in the correct manner from the onset. And now we're rolling to 2022, and this matter has come to a head, and he's lost twice in arbitration, having to pay back 37 million. He's attempted to legally keep his job. He wrote in legal documents to Stellenbosch University that he will pay back the money on the proviso that he gets to keep his job. That didn't seem to be successful either, and which is why it's now come to this point where a separation has been agreed or is very close to being agreed. And just remember that the court, so from arbitration, the legal process went to the Western Cape High Court. Now the High Court is going to sit on the matter in October again, and we are close to finding out from the court whether that arbitration, 37 million rand arbitration award to Stellenbosch, is enforceable by law. If Stellenbosch win that High Court, the latest round in the High Court, Jurie Roux will find himself in deep financial trouble.
So I mean, Sbu, maybe an unfair question to you, but is this a question of an all-boys club protecting each other? Granted that Jurie Roux has done very well as CEO, as you've mentioned, but it almost seems like an all-boys club that is looking out for each other, to try and protect each other, even though a misdemeanor has been committed.
Well, I can't say for sure, but the fact that Jurie's still in the job says a lot about people wanting to keep him there. I mean, he didn't renew his own contract. He doesn't review his own KPIs. From what I'm told, and I was speaking to a lot of people today within rugby circles, is that he's a performer when it comes to KPIs. And as long as, he makes the organization money, and it's very difficult for the same people to then chase away the goose that lays the golden eggs. SA Rugby's general council is made of 14 presidents of each union in the domestic roster, and each of those presidents is sort of has some sort of bargaining chip, some sort of leeway, and you'd imagine that Jurie has made the ecosystem work for South African rugby and for a lot of these unions. So for them, it's in their best interest to keep him running and keep rugby running.
So just finally then, what do we know? When is the official announcement of his departure expected to be made? How soon? As nothing official has been said as yet.
We don't know exactly when something official will come to light. Our sister publication report reported that by the end of the year, Jurie Roux should vacate his office. But I do suspect that we are talking about a matter of days, a matter of days before before a resolution comes to light, and that resolution is only one way, and that's a separation.
Fantastic, Sbu. Thank you so much for coming through to talk to us on that. Definitely a story that we will be watching closely. Well.